right, are we back at Elbaf yet? Are we still at... Oh, okay, no, wait, hold on. Sorry, I messed up. Give me a second. All right. God Valley Bath! Yeah! I was like, all right. Yeah, we're still in the flashback, still doing God Valley stuff. I shouldn't be like, this is God Valley. This is the main event. This is what we've been waiting for. It's just, you know, the way that it was structured inside of an Elbaf flashback, not what I don't think anybody expected, but we're here now, okay? Oh man, this will be One Piece chapter 1161 review titled A Love Ballad in a Hail of Arrows. Once again, not a chapter title I would have expected for God Valley, but here we are. Actually, very unique setup this week. Oda did a color spread for this chapter, but we also do have a continuation of the cover story. That is very rare. Doesn't happen very often, okay? The color spread is really cool. It's all of the Straw Hats around a crane machine. You know, like the claw game, okay? And God knows how much money I made my parents spend on those over the years. But anyway, Chopper seems to have been mistaken for a plushie and is now inside of the claw machine. So Usopp is at the helm trying to get Chopper out of the machine. Brook is the claw. Brook is like inside of the machine trying to be the claw, trying to get Chopper out of there. Robin is off to the side like, please Usopp, please get him out of there. Frankie's off to the side with a bunch of change like, oh man, we only have 6 quarters left. Usopp, you gotta get him out of there. And there's a bunch of plushies of all different, like, One Piece characters. Like, Luffy's holding on to a plushie Shanks and a plushie Ace and a plushie Dadan and a Garp and a Sabo. There's Nami's holding on to Vivi and Nojiko and Belmir and a Genzo. Also Haradus, the weather wizard that taught Nami how to use weather magic at Weatheria. That was a lot of weather in one sentence, but there's actually a lot of really cool, interesting things. There's a plushie version of Yamato, there's a plushie Buggy, there's a giant plushie version of Shirahoshi, and Zoro is next to a plushie of Mihawk on the ground, so it's really cool there. Jinbei's off to the side just asleep, like he doesn't care about any of this. He's just like, yeah, whatever, you have fun playing the crane machine, Dad's gonna take a nap over here. You know, he doesn't care. Yeah, so that's a really cool color spread. Now, continuing on with Yamato's Holy Inari Shrine Pilgrimage, Volume 43, they are inside of Odin Shrine. So the shrine that was just recently built outside of the Flower Capital, overlooking the Flower Capital. We saw the outside of it last time, and now we're inside, and there are a bunch of lanterns with names written on them in Japanese to commemorate the people that fell in the, like, 2-decade-plus long battle with Kaido and Orochi, okay? So all told, there are 15 lanterns, all right? There are 3 in the first row, and then there are 3 rows of 4. So it's 15 total. Now, I spent way too much time on this one page going through probably 15, 20 minutes before I even got into the chapter, going through the lanterns, trying to figure out what the names are, right? Hey, really quick, this is teching from the end of the chapter. Okay, so there were translator notes for what all of the lanterns said at the end of the chapter. I missed that. So at the end, you'll see my reaction to finding that out. But right here, I'm just gonna try my best to translate the names. I learn about them at the end of the chapter though, so it's like, that's how that goes. All right, back to it. So some of them are pretty obvious, like the biggest lantern in the shrine, the one that's at the very top dead center that's bigger than all the other ones, says Kozuki Odin, and that's the one you can read the most clear, okay? So that one, easy, it's Odin Shrine, obviously he's going to be the headliner there, okay? So to the left of that lantern, like I said, there's 3 at the top row. On the left of Odin's lantern, it reads Kozuki Toki, Odin's wife, who also perished during the fire at Odin Castle 20 plus years ago. That also makes sense. Then to the right of Odin, it is Shimosuke Yasuie. Also makes sense. Yasuie survived, but then he was shot by Orochi during the Wano arc. Okay, so those 3 make sense. We go down to the second row, and This is the one where, like, okay, I don't immediately recognize any of these names, and I was like, I don't know, have time to go through every single one of them. Like, I could have gone through, like, each individual kanji and tried to piece it together, but there are 4 names, 4 lanterns in a row on the second row. I don't know who these are, so if you know immediately who these are, let me know. Going to the third row, we have Izo on the left. That was an easy one to read. And then immediately next to Izo, we have Pedro. So Pedro made it in as a commemorative lantern in the shrine. I mean, even though technically speaking, Pedro was not like, he died, you know, rest in peace Pedro and all that, but he wasn't part of like the raid on Onigashima or anything. He died way back at Whole Cake Island, you know, he blew himself up so the Straw Hats could, I guess, get away so they could get to Wano, whatever. He deserves a lantern, all right? I don't know why he deserves a lantern in the shrine. Pedro's in there, okay. Then there is a third lantern next to Pedro. Now, in the foreground, we have Kinemon, Yamato, and Momonosuke paying their respects to the lanterns. So Yamato kind of covers up, you know, in the foreground, the writing on that lantern. So I cannot read the third one. But the fourth one, at the end of the third row, is Ashura Doji. So I'm like, okay, we have Odin, Toki, Yasuie, Izo, Pedro, and Ashura Doji. Those are characters we all know that were very prominent in the arc, that died, and it makes sense why they would be commemorated in the shrine. Then we get to the last row, where the only one that you could kind of read is the one on the bottom left. And I don't know what that one is either. And then the following 3 are obscured once again by Yamato in the foreground, okay? So it seems like I should be, oh wait a minute, wait, you know what? I just realized, those are the names of the other daimyos, aren't they? Aren't they? I was just like, I'm thinking too much into this, right? The 4 immediately, I've already said it, so people are already, it's the other daimyos, and I'm like, I just got it just now. That makes sense. Yeah, so the next row immediately below Odin and Toki and Yasuie are probably the other daimyos that were in the cave, plus, so Ushimaru, and then I think there was a Tempura, and then there was like some of the other dude that was named after an onigiri. That's probably them. Okay, there we go. I have that one there. I guess that's taken care of. But there's still probably a couple of other names on here that I don't immediately pop out to me. So that's where that is. But anyway, interesting cover page. We got that. Still going on. So yeah, also I guess Momonosuke and Kinemon met Yamato to pay their respects at the shrine. So we'll probably be wrapping this up pretty soon. Yamato's is not like the longest cover story really. So we still have some room left to flesh this out if we want to have one final big ending to this, but that's where that is. Okay, so moving on. God Valley. 38 years ago, the island became an inescapable flashpoint of intensity, where motives and fate all mixed together into a soup, all right? It was a giant soup, a gazpacho, as it were, of battle and hockey and God's Knights and pirates. It was a mess. It was a mess. So we have the Celestial Dragons that are all being evacuated, right? Not the God's Knights, just the ordinary, horrible Celestial Dragons. And the Marines are like, oh, please, saints and saintesses, you need to evacuate. And they're like, I hope you know, Marines. They're all just acting like Karens at this point. Just like, I'll have you know, Mr. Marine Fancy Pants, there was a treasure I really wanted here. And the Marines are like, we'll get you the treasure. We'll take responsibility for it. Just get off the island. And then the Celestial Dragons are like, oh, damn straight you will. You will take responsibility for all of this, I say. This is the worst hunting competition we've ever been to. So they're just acting awful and horrible. The slaves and everybody and all the townsfolk and everybody that were thrown out there as part of the rabbits for the game, they're like, holy shit, we might actually have a chance to get out of here. So they're like, let's make a break for it. Let's find a ship. Let's get off the island. We know that Kuma is going to save 500 plus people during this event here. So we actually do see Kuma and Ivankov later on in the chapter, but we knew Kuma's going to save a lot of people. So that's going to be okay. okay there. I don't think he manages to save everybody because there's a lot of people on this island, but Kuma does save a lot. Okay, so we have Roger, who's like, where's Shakky? We gotta find her. Then we have Rox, who's running off to another location. Rox is not going to be with the rest of his crew in this chapter. In fact, this is the only time we really see him, right here in this one little panel. He's running off. He's like, Eris, Teach, where are ye? And so he's looking for his wife and his son. Now, obviously, Teach, Blackbeard, right? We find out, I guess the name of Rox's wife is Eris. The god of chaos, Eris. Eris. No, Aerith is from Final Fantasy VII, yeah. Also, not a good ending there. Okay, so Eris, interesting. Is her name actually Marshall, I wonder? Like, it would be Marshall D. Eris? And maybe, because that's like the idea, like, where did the Marshall name came from? Maybe it came from Blackbeard's mom, rather than, taking the Davy name or the Rox name from his father. So her name could be Marshall Eris or Marshall D. Eris, if she's also a member of the Davy clan. Or I guess, once again, damn it, it's gonna be so hard to differentiate between the Davy clan and the Will of D if they are not the same thing now, right? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, no. Later on, we find out the Will of D had nothing to do with Davy. It's like, okay. So anyway, yeah, it's possible just like Roger, Gold D. Roger got together with Porcus D. Rouge and they had a child, Porcus D. Ace, right? So it's very possible that, like, same deal that Eris could have had the Will of D, but we find out her name, so that's interesting. And then Garp is there, and then all Garp cares about is, where's Roger at? I left my vacation early and came to an island to save a bunch of celestial dragons just so I could fight against Roger. It's like, okay. We cut over to Dragon. Dragon has his cloak up, and he has Baby Shamrock and Baby Shanks, and he's running through the battlefield, and he's just like, okay, I gotta figure out a way to get out of here. I gotta get back to a Navy ship. I gotta, figure out a way to hide these two babies so nobody notices and we can get the hell off the island, right? So Dragon is running through the forest. He notices a bunch of pirates, a bunch of, commotion coming from the way he's heading. So he's like, whoa, okay, those are pirates down that way. Don't want to go that way. I gotta figure out another way to go. Meanwhile, do you remember the sexy big woman? The sexy big woman that that was in One Piece. Well, which one, Matt? There's a few. I'm like, okay, Sandersoni. No, not her. Yeah, the woman in the God's Knights, all right? That kind of looks like Killingham, all right? Probably actually not Killingham's mom. We're going to find out her name and her family that she's part of in a second. But sexy big woman with the two-toned hair and the cigar and the plunging, neckline and the cleavage and the sharp teeth and the sunglasses and the shades. Her, okay. So she shows up behind Dragon, and she's just on a Den Mushy, and she's like, hey, I found a Marine carrying those two kids you were looking for. And so the guy's like, oh, thank you so much. Please bring them back. And she's like, yeah, okay. So she fires a damn laser beam. She just opens her mouth and just like, fire in my laser! And then fires a laser very similar to the Pacifistas, which is, based off of Kizaru's Pika Pika no Mi, straight through Dragon's, like, shoulder, doesn't hit the kids. I love that. I love how she's just like, hey, I found those two babies you were looking for. All right, I'll take them down. And just like, okay, so that's thankful there. Maybe she had the Pika Pika no Mi back in the day, because this was 38 years ago. Probably didn't have the Pika Pika no Mi. Definitely did not join the Marines yet. He joined a little later. So it's very likely, I mean, it's like the same kind of ability. Either that or she has like another devil fruit that's very similar to firing lasers. Doesn't look like it's made out of, well, I mean, you could always say it's like maybe some fire-based devil fruit or a plasma-based devil fruit. She could have a mythical zone that allows her to fire lasers. But the lasers look very similar to the Pacifista lasers and the Pika Pika no Mi lasers, which they're based off of. So, I mean, honestly, I don't know if she's a straight-up Logia, but that would be crazy because that would make her the very first God's Knight that has a Logia ability. And I just made a video talking about this, like, hey, the God's Knights, they're apparently, like, have access to all of, like, the best devil fruits because the world government controls the world. They're going to hoard all the best devil fruits for themselves. And we know the admirals, they're in the Marines, they have all of the, strongest Logias. So why don't the God's Knights have a Logia as well, right? They have their immortality to pace themselves back together anyway, but, add a Logia on top of that, I guess, right? So, very possible she'd have the Pika Pika. Maybe she just has the laser fruit. Maybe there's just a devil fruit that's a paramecia that lets you fire lasers, Maybe it has nothing to do with the Pika Pika, but I guess we'll find out. But yeah, so she blasts Dragon. He goes down, and she's there, and she's just like, yeah, I got him. And then on the Den Den Mushi, it's like, oh, you're a lifesaver, Maffy. I don't know, Garling would have done to me. He would have tortured and killed me if he found out I lost his kids. So the way that this went down, and we didn't see like every step of this. So Garling stabs the mother of Shanks and Shamrock. She crawls off and dies in that house after telling Dragon to please save her children. Garling picks up the two kids and is like, oh, you're adorable or whatever. Okay, well, I gotta go fight in a tournament. So he probably like tosses the kids over to some random celestial dragon. I don't think it was another God's Knight. I think it was just like a random, like his assistant or whatever. He's like, watch these babies for me while I go slaughter the innocent. And so they were like, okay, I guess. Also, Dragon was able to like, I know it was absolute chaos, but the fact Dragon was able to sneak into where all the celestial dragons were, kidnap these two babies, and hightail it out of there. I mean, I guess, is it kidnapping if one of the parents on her dying breath said, please don't let him take the children, but then in that case, it's the father? You know, I don't know. Is this kidnapping? I don't know. I mean, strictly speaking, I guess it is, but like, whatever. I mean, you know, Garling is awful, so it's okay. So, you know, there was like some random celestial dragon that was like, okay, I'll watch these kids. He turns around, it's like, oh, damn it, I'm so dead, you know, and so he orders Maffy to go and, you know, maybe not even orders, more of like, hey, Maffy, can you do me a favor? So the large woman is named Maffy, and she is from the Satchel family, or the Satchels family, depending. By the way, I made a handy little reference table, the return of the reference tables, for all the different celestial dragon family names, right? We got Figarland, we got Don Quixote, we got the Remo Shifu family, we got the Bavette family we found out about last time, then we have all 5 of the Gorosei families. Then we have the Nerona family, which was Emu's family back in the day. We don't exactly know the whole deal with that, if Emu really is Emu Nerona or just taking their name, but it was mentioned the Nerona family did exist as, you know, a family back in the day. And now we have the Satchel family. The Nefertari family also included here. I'm putting them off to the side because they were one of the original 20 families, but they are not part of the celestial dragon families. They chose to leave and go back to Alabaster, right? Okay, so Oda's, you know, providing a decent amount of names now. I mean, I think we only have like probably like, you know, 7 left or so that we need to explain, so we only have like 13 names out of the 20. We've made some progress with that, certainly, okay? But yeah, we see Maffy, Saint Maffy Satchels, I guess. She's really tall. She also is wearing like a flower floral printed skirt kind of deal, smoking a big cigar. She has a sword and she can fire laser beams. That's cool. Dragon's on the ground and he's bleeding out and he's just like, wait, please. Those babies were, like, me saving those children were the only way I could atone for being part of this horrible operation. And so Maffy, I don't even think really hears him. She just pulls out her sword and just like, okay, time to die, Marine, and is about to kill Dragon. And Dragon's, like, last thought was just like, I guess this is it. I guess, considering that I helped build this whole thing up in this tournament, I guess this is recompense. So the sword goes down. By the way, Dragon, in this instance, was resigning himself to die. He was, like, just committed to it. He was like, I guess I'm dead. There's nothing I can do here. And he's not smiling, but he has the will of D. So I'm curious, because same deal with Luffy at Logtown, right? Like, Luffy didn't die there. But he was certain that he was going to. He knew he was going to die, and he smiled, and he was just like, sorry, I'm dead. And then right before the blade hit his neck, that's when lightning struck, right? So right here, kind of the same situation. Dragon was, he couldn't move. He's just like, man, I'm done. I'm dead right here. I guess this is it. And then the sword comes down, but he didn't smile, despite the fact he has the will of D. So I'm interested in that. Also, a lot of people, many people, were going through this whole chapter and pointing out things that I wouldn't even have thought of. Like, you know, so Maffy shot Dragon and was just like, I guess Dragon doesn't have observation. I would say overall, Dragon is 17 here. He's the same age Luffy was when he left Fuchsia. I'm gonna say that Dragon is probably overall, though, like, he doesn't have a devil fruit at this point. Also keep that in mind. Probably not as powerful as Luffy was when he left on his journey, is what I'm thinking here. Now, Dragon had his devil fruit for like 12 years, like Luffy did, and he had a time to like train with it and everything. That's a different story altogether. Or I guess Luffy had his devil fruit for 10 years because he ate it when he was 7, and then he was 17 when he left his journey. He's 19 right now. But like, you know what I mean? Like, Dragon just seems to be like, really normal Marine, like maybe slightly above average Marine, like seaman recruit level or something like that. He really doesn't give off the vibes that he knows hockey or he has any devil fruit abilities or he knows any of the Rokushiki or anything. He went on a big training arc after this. I'm just going to say that. All right, so right before the sword comes down and kills Dragon, the pirates that Dragon saw earlier walking towards that location arrive, and every tree in the area just gets sliced apart, including Maffy, who is basically as tall as a tree. She gets sliced as well, and, you know, she's immortal, so she'll just, you know, paste herself back together, or she could be a Logia, that's the thing, too. She gets sliced in half, she's all shocked, and she's like, what? And then, boom, we have Whitebeard, we have Big Mom, we have, Kaido, and eventually Shakky, too, are all gonna show up at this location. So they're all stomping around the island, and Whitebeard, they don't even really notice or acknowledge, like, Maffy or Dragon. They don't even notice Dragon. Dragon's off to the side, like, what the hell? Okay, I'm not dead, all right, whatever. And he just, like, starts crawling over to a tree and, like, hiding behind this tree with, a big wound on him, and, you know, Whitebeard just stomps by with Lin. It's like, for the last time, I was aiming at the enemy, Lin. I wasn't aiming at you. And Big Mom is just like, you know, I could have died. You gotta watch where you swing that thing. Edward. She doesn't call him Edward, but he's not Whitebeard yet, so I'm guessing they would all call him Edward or Newgate. You know, it's just like, whatever. Okay, so Dragon just kind of like, you know, hiding behind the tree, and he's like, damn. Everybody's huge on this island. Huge God's Knight lady, huge Whitebeard, huge, you know, giant Big Mom woman. You know, it's like, this is crazy, right? So Shakky shows up, Kaido shows up, and now there's all four of them there. And this is very important. We have Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, and Shakky. Because in the Ace light novel, I think it was the only time it was directly mentioned, these were the Yonko before, like, Shanks became a Yonko. Shanks didn't become a Yonko until 6 years ago, right? So if we're talking about, like, the Yonko, like, first generation, because the Yonko haven't even been mentioned in this flashback as a thing, right? And remember, Yonko is not like an organization, right? It's just, you call the four greatest pirates in the New World the Yonko, but that term doesn't even show up. So maybe the idea, because it's like a balance of power sort of thing. It's like the world government, and then you have the seven warlords, and you have the Yonko, and like before the warlord system was abolished, they sort of served as like a balancing act here, right? So, certainly speaking, you could just go down the list of, like, who's the strongest pirate in the New World? Probably Rocks. Who's the second strongest pirate in the New World? And you just keep going down until you get, like, there your Yonko right there. It's just not common nomenclature yet for that. At any rate, there are other pirates that left Hachinosu. We see them in the flashback with Kuma earlier, but Rocks' crew wasn't the only one there. Remember, Shakky set up her rip-off bar at the island, and everybody was lining up, not just Rocks' crew, right? Yeah, Rocks' crew was the boss of the island, but it was a safe haven for pirates in general. So all these other pirates show up and they're like, this is our chance, boys! We can take down the Rocks crew right in, you know, for all time, and we can rule Hachinosu. And it's like, you guys, I mean, okay, granted, in order to make it to Hachinosu and survive on that island, in these times especially, these pirates are probably no slouches, I'll give them that. But, this is Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, and Shakky you are going up against, right? And just in terms of size and scale, they are all way bigger than you. This is a horrible idea, right? So all the pirates are just like, let's take them all down. And you see those four giant titans of pirates, you know, many of which have devil fruit abilities. Whitebeard has the power to punch the ground and cause earthquakes over an entire island. Big Mom has this crazy powerful devil fruit to manifest her soul into giant energy attacks. Kaido is this huge giant that's built like a brick shithouse. Shakky can fly. Let's take them down. We can do it, men. Let's go! Ah! It doesn't end well. It doesn't end well for them at all. They all get absolutely annihilated. I wish they would have named this attack. This looks like an epic combo move in a video game, right? We just have Big Mom, Whitebeard, Kaido, and Shakky all, like, swinging their weapons at the same time in, like, this giant whirlpool of death. And they're just like, get back to bed, you small fries. Boom! What would this attack be called? What would this attack be called? Like, this is like, you know, I don't know, like, Retribution of the Four Emperors or something like, I don't know, man, something cool. Probably sounds cooler in Japanese. But, like, yeah, man, we need to name this shit. This is cool. This is like... We're assuming, yeah, we know Kaido, Whitebeard, and Big Mom were Yonko. We'll just throw Shakky in there, too. Why not? You know, it's already a thing. Somebody had to be one of the Yonko before Shanks, anyway, which I guess also means was Shanks the one that defeated Shakky to become Emperor? I don't know. But we're gonna go with that because that makes the most sense here. And we've already had a whole movie about Shakky. We know he was a badass, which also, I guess, in that movie, pre-time skip Luffy punches out a Yonko status enemy at one point. But he had power from lightning. Zeus in that movie was like, here you go, Luffy. I'll give you a little bit of lightning power to defeat a Yonko. That's how Luffy did it. He made a Gear 3rd, you know, elephant gun, giant fist. I don't even think it was elephant gun yet. And lightning struck at the same time. And then he punched Shakky really hard, and that's how he beat him. He had to help from the gods of thunder and Thor. Okay, so... crazy nonsense is going on. Maffy reconstitutes herself, and she's still holding on to one of the babies. She has Shamrock, okay? And so Dragon's on the ground, and he's just like, okay, all right, I'm still alive somehow. Oh, but she took the babies. Oh, now what am I going to do? And he looks down, and we see another one of the babies. We see baby Shanks on the ground with a big, like, you know, he fell and bonked his head, so he has a big whelp on his head. And he's like, you know, the X's on his face kind of implies he's dead, but he's not. He's just knocked out for the moment, right? And so he looks down, and it's like, oh, she must have dropped one. Okay. And so Dragon picks up baby Shanks and makes a run for it, okay? I would also bring up at this point, wouldn't it be interesting if, nah, probably not. If Maffy has Shanks and then turns out Shamrock was the one that Dragon saved this whole time? Probably not, no. Anyway, so yeah, Dragon is like, oh, okay, I can still do this. I can still save the day, all right? So now we cut over to Garp, and Garp is storming the island, and he sees that big explosion that occurred earlier when Whitebeard and Big Mom and Kaido and Shakky were fighting all the pirates, and he's just like, now this seems like a good spot to go fishing. And so Garp just charges up his prime hockey fist, and he jumps up in the air, and he brings down the meteor. Boom! And then at that exact moment, Whitebeard and Big Mom and Kaido, Shakky as well. I mean, we don't really see Shakky in this scene. Maybe Shakky, I mean, he could fly, so he probably just hightailed it out there faster than anybody. But they all immediately turn, and they start booking it away from Garp. And they're just like, you know, Garp's bringing down the pain, and he's just like, brace yourselves, you big old sea kings! Bam! And then he starts running, and they're just like, okay, this fight is gonna take way too long if we try to fight Garp. We're here to save Shakky, we're not here to fight Garp, it's gonna take too long, let's get out of here. This is another thing that people brought up, and I wouldn't have noticed this. The badass scene at Marineford, when after Whitebeard dies and his body is standing up, you know, dead, but, you know, he never fell down, still holding his mighty weapon, his Murakumo Giri, and the cloak falls off of him, and we see the Jolly Roger on his back, and the narrator goes over all the battle wounds that Whitebeard incurred, and it's said that Whitebeard didn't have a single scar on his back because he never fled in combat. He never showed his back to an enemy. Well, I mean, he clearly showed the back to an enemy right there. I mean, look, okay, look. I'll give it to him in the sense that, like, Whitebeard, right here at this moment, he's not there to fight Garp. He's there to save Shakky, but he did still run away from an enemy. And you could also say, he even does say, like, hey, you know, fighting Garp is fine, but that's going to take way too long. He's still turning his back to an enemy. I mean, he didn't get the scar, but maybe he could have. Like, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, once again, something I probably wouldn't have really have noticed, but there it is. Kaido is the only one that's just like, oh, come on, guys, we can take him. We can take him. Let's go. I want to fight. Kaido is just, you know, he's at this point, he's like 21, and he just really wants a big brawl, right? He just wants to fight someone really strong, like Roger or Garp. He's like, come on, guys, let's go. It's like, no, you stupid kid, you're gonna die, let's go. And it's like, aw. So then at that point, Dragon looks up and he's like, Dad, you're here too? Okay, so this confirms, because it was a thing for a while, there was a theory that, like, what if Dragon and Garp are not, like, father and son? You know, I didn't really buy into it, honestly. I thought it was always pretty obvious that Garp, you know, his son was Dragon and Dragon's son was Luffy. And also the way that we talked about this during Kuzan's flashback made it very clear. But right here, we have Dragon saying, oh, Garp, Dad. Because the way this could go is, like, Luffy has a mother. We don't know who she is yet. Maybe she's Maffy. Add her to the list. Anyway, Luffy has a mom, right? And a dad, and that's Dragon. So it's possible that, like, what if Luffy's mom's dad on the mom's side of the family was Garp, actually, and it wasn't Dragon? What if that was the twist? That isn't the twist. You know, Dragon is clearly Garp's son, you know, okay. Anyway, so Big Mom takes out Zeus and Prometheus. I think this is the first time we're seeing Zeus in the flashback. I was a little bit, you know, confused. Like, what was, did she even have Zeus back then? Was it a different homie? But no, she had Zeus, she had Prometheus, and she still had Napoleon, all the same homies as she does in the present. Well, you know, she has Hera now. But anyway, Big Mom takes out Prometheus and Zeus, and she jumps up in the air, and she does a combination attack with both of them and launches a giant fire death beam at Garp. And it hits Garp, like, dead on. It just, boom, like Kamehameha level shit. Just blasts Garp right in the face. And we see this massive explosion in the distance. We see Ivankov, we see Kuma, and then Ivankov's like, what was that? That was crazy. Let's not go over there. It's time to escape. And Kuma's like, okay. You know, just witnessing all this crazy shit happening. We cut back over to the blast site, and remember that, like, you know, the mazer cannon that Big Mom used? She was a combination of all of her homies when she attacked Ulti, blasted a laser beam right through Ulti. This was bigger than that. Remember, like, the combination attack she did with Kaido that hit Zoro? I mean, I don't know where it does on the level of that, but this seemed like a big, giant key attack from Dragon Ball Z right here, okay? Garp just emerges from the smoke. I would say, like, his whole body is covered in armament, but I don't even think it's that. I think it's just like she blasts him with this giant fire wave, and then out of the flames just emerges the shadow, like the silhouette of a demon, as Garp, led by his mighty chest muscles, emerges from the flames. And he does have, like, the sickest rebuke in this entire chapter. This isn't even hot enough to cook a prime rib, Lin Lin. You know, and he's just, like, walking out of the flames, you know, smacking his fists together like, oh man, damn it, Lin Lin, I didn't know you liked your steaks rare. This will barely char the damn thing. You know, just like, all right, that's pretty badass, okay? That's pretty badass, actually. And I love the translation here, where Lin Lin just, what do you even say to this? And it's perfect. Big Mom just looks at Garp after this and is just like, fuck! And just runs I mean, wouldn't you from this? You know, like, this is like, you know, Big Mom is not pulling her punches with this. You know, Lin Lin is not going to be like, all right, let's just use a little bit, like 10% of my power against Garp here. No, you know, that was probably one of her strongest techniques that she pulled off against him, and he walked right through it like it was nothing, and just like a tank. And then she's like, oh no, and they just start running. We cut back over to Maffy. Maffy is talking on the Den Den Mushi to the Celestial Dragon that was in charge of the kids, and she's like, well, the guy that kidnapped him is probably, kidnapped the babies is probably dead at this point. I've secured one baby, that's good enough, right? And he's like, well, I guess so, I'm forever in your debt, now please get back here before Garling finds out. I think Garling is probably going to remember that there were two kids, although in Garling's case, maybe not. Garling shows back up after the battle, and he's like, all right, where are my, oh yeah, that's right, I have sons now, where are my kids? I was like, here you go. You have one of them. And it's like, didn't I have two? No, Sir Garling. You only had one. Yeah, that sounds about right. You know what I mean? I could see him being that shitty of a dad, right? But anyway, Dragon has baby Shanks. Still kind of conked out. Baby Shamrock is crying in Maffy's hand. The babies did not cry at all. See, Oda's paying attention to this for something. He's pointing out this. He's like, when the babies were with Dragon, despite all the crazy nonsense and explosions going on, they weren't crying. And Dragon even pointed that out. He's like, it's weird that you kids are not crying in all this. And they seem perfectly fine. The second that the baby gets picked up by a God's Knight, by Maffy, starts crying, and that's Shamrock. Or maybe, like I said, maybe like there's going to be another switcheroo. By the time that the baby ends up in the treasure chest and Roger gets Shanks, maybe there's another switcheroo here, and that was actually Shamrock. Dragon drops the kid, Maffy drops the kid, they can't remember which is which. It's like, oh, okay, and then they leave. I don't know, man, but anyway, baby under Maffy's care is crying. The baby that Dragon has is kind of unconscious, so they're not really making a lot of noise. I think it's just kind of just like, you know, like just kind of doing that or whatever. We cut over to the member of the Manmeyer family, the one with the cap, and she is just kind of like, oh, you thought you rabbits could escape amidst the chaos. Well, no, we're still... So there's even some God's Knights that are still going with the competition, or probably not even with the competition at this point. They're probably like, oh, you know what? Oh, pirates are attacking, the competition is called off, but I'm still going to shoot as many of these people as possible, right? That's basically what they're doing there. So she does that. We now cut to the center of the town. So remember, God Valley has those two very distinctive, iconic mountains right in the center, right? And there's like a gap in between them. If you've ever played Breath of the Wild, there's a similar formation there, right? There's like an old Western style town right in the middle of those two mountains. And that's where like the home base got set up, where the competition began and everything. And so that's kind of where the Marines are. And the Marines are mentioning that, like, okay, the Celestial Dragons are evacuating in that direction. Roger's crew are coming from like the north side of the mountain down that opening, that valley, God Valley as it were, and then the Rocks pirates are coming from the south. So like they're right smack dab in the middle. They can't really run side to side because there's two giant mountains boxing them in. And so now we have Roger on one side and Rocks on the other, and they're gonna meet right in the center, and it's gonna be absolutely, you know, it's gonna be Armageddon when that happens, right? Okay, so they are running between each other. We have all the Rocks pirates storming the town. Give back Shakky, we're gonna save her! Right, and so they're all at this point now not even fighting to get there, they're now fighting against each other to see who's going to get the glory of being the one person to save Shakky. So because they're all focused on saving Shakky, they actually inadvertently delay saving Shakky. Because at this point it's not even like, it is about saving her, but it's like, no, I want to be the one to save her. No, I want to be the one to save her. No, you get away, Shakky. I'm gonna be the one that saves her, you know, and that's taking time away from this, right? So you have Silver Axe there pushing Shakky back. We have Glorioso. We have Gonzui. We have Captain John with a metal hand, like a giant metal hand. Captain John. Did Captain John have Eustace Kid's devil fruit? Because it looks exactly like that. Now, we've seen other cyborgs and stuff in One Piece, so not necessarily, but the way that, you know, John has a mechanical arm, it looks like, you know, the way that Kid would make his mechanical arms with his Jiki no Mi. So, very possible that Eustace Kid carries on the legacy of Captain John. I mean, he's dead now, so, you know, it's probably up for grabs again, but you know what I mean, like, that's how that goes. We also see Gil Bastar there, and I think he still does have 4 arms, like, you know, there's, like, something drawn to his back. I don't know if that's, like, another character, because when we see Gil Bastar in the first flashback, he does have 4 arms, and when he gets resurrected at Thriller Bark, he also has 4 arms, so it implies it wasn't something that was grafted on by Hogback, like, he always had 4 arms for some reason. We see him there running, and something off to his side, so maybe that was his like other arm. He's carrying his guns, he's charging towards the island, doesn't say anything, but he is there. So let's see here. Then we have Summers. Okay, Summers arrives where Shakky's being kept. You at least move Shakuyaku somewhere else, right? Like, you wouldn't just keep her in the middle of town where everybody knows where she is. And they're like, oh yeah, Sir Summers about that. And so they open up the place like the prison they were keeping Shakky. Shakky has defeated all of the Marines. Remember, she's chained up. I don't think she has a devil fruit ability, so even if it's Sea Prism Stone, she might not be able to break the shackles, but they wouldn't be affecting her in any way. And so she has kicked and defeated all of the members of the Marines that are around her, and one of them is like pounded right through the wall. And so then Summers walks in and is just like, you know, oh, don't tell me all of these Marine officers were taken out by one chained up, you know, late lady. That was it. And then Shakky is just like, sounds like the pirates are causing some havoc out there. So Shakky's kind of aware. She's putting on the front of, like, you know, because later on we find out she was very terrified throughout this whole experience. I'm sure it was awful for her, but she is maintaining the, like, okay, it sounds like the pirates are really causing havoc out there. You should probably watch yourself kind of thing. And so Summers just goes up and just smacks her right in the face. Just slaps her in the face. Shakky, this is actually kind of a boss move. She gets slapped. She falls in a way that makes it look like she's just like, oh, I'm a helpless woman and I'm going to fall to the ground in pain. No, she takes that moment to kind of make it look like she's falling, but she uses it like as a spin move to then kick Summers like right upside the arm, like right here at the shoulder. Now, this is a crazy powerful kick, as we've seen. And Summers even, you know, cries out in pain because despite his ability to heal the wounds, he could still feel pain. Like, the God's Knights can still feel pain. Or at least, I don't know, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's weird about that. But in this case, I don't think he's pretending. I don't think he's putting on an act or anything. I think it really does hurt really bad. Probably shattered every bone right here in his freaking arm and in his shoulder, but he could just heal. So she, like, you know, gets hit, pretends to fall down, spins around, kicks him as hard as she can right in the arm. He gets knocked back. Grabs her leg, takes out his sword, his thorn sword, and then hits her right in the leg. So that, like, slices her leg all up. So now she's on the ground bleeding. And, you know, Summers at this point, let me tell you, when Summers, we know all the Celestial Dragons are just god-awful, right? Mule's-Guard used to be, like, he kind of got redemption through Otahime, but, like, 99.9%, I guess maybe homing, too, but, like, 99% of Celestial Dragons are awful. When Summers first showed up at Elbaf, there was like a little bit of like goofiness to his character, right? Because he spawned in from the abyss and he was wearing his pajamas and he's like, oh wait, what? And so he had like some funny face expressions and things like that. So he's awful, and we've seen that clearly when he fought Robin and everything. Here, he has just shown himself to be an irredeemable asshole, just like all the other Celestial Dragons. So like, you know, even like Killingham. When Killingham first showed up at Elbaf, he had a kind of silly, dorky appearance that kind of made him look like a cartoon character. So Oda's doing this thing where it's like, yeah, he's not against using the Celestial Dragons as like, oh, like they're a little bit silly or they have weird little quirks. They are still awful. They all are, you know, like except for like a couple, but they are awful. And Summers displays that right here, straight up front and center. He's going on about how, oh, well, Garling was probably just going to win you anyway, so I wasn't going to win you, so what does it matter? I guess I should probably just kill you right here. And he just goes on about how no one is going to save her, and then they're just, what happens if all the pirates come to save you and they just find a mangled corpse, blood everywhere inside of this prison? I wonder what they would do. Well, they would probably kill your ass, Summers, I would assume. We covered over to see Roger clashing with Whitebeard. You know, it's not like their clash when they were like Odin's flashback where they, like, the weapons didn't even touch and, like, the impact ring and everything like that. They are clashing there, like, normally, but they are, you know, spewing hockey out of it. That explosion knocks back a lot of the other pirates. Shakky is there like, hey, I'm gonna save you now, Shakky, hang on. And like everybody's yelling and shouting and screaming that they're gonna save her. Roger's like, wait, hold on a minute. I actually do have Ace over here. So, you know, Roger has Ace. And just, like, clashing with Whitebeard and be like, Yarg me hearty! I have me hands full right now! Rayleigh, it's up to you! You gotta save her! You know, and so everybody's scrambling, trying to get to the place where Shakky is. Like, they just know where she is. Like, observation hockey, but also maybe, like, the compass of love or some bullshit. Anyway, Rayleigh takes Captain's orders. He jumps up. He has his one sword. Remember, Rayleigh just uses one sword style, but that's all he needs. And so Shepard Summers is just still going on about how, like, oh, they're a little outside right now. They're going to come in here. Man, the Marines are like, oh, Shepard, what, you know, if you kill her right here, you know, there's going to be punishment. And Shepard's like, just keep quiet. We won't have to worry about it. He really goes into it, too. He goes in depth. He, like, describes the way. He's like, oh, I'm not going to kill you right away. I'm going to slash you up with like 5 or 6 slices and I'll drain out all your blood first. Like, he goes full like Saw with this shit. Like, he's about to do this. Pulls out the sword, Shakky's on the ground, and then boom, at that exact moment, final double page spread, Rayleigh, like the demon, breaks through. The Dark King is here. He uses Transcendent Hegon Crescent, and with one sword slashes Summers with such impact, so hard, it knocks him through a wall like freaking Wile E. Coyote, you know, like through the wall in the perfect shape of a person, right? So just boom, smacks Summers so hard, blasts him through a wall, probably several walls. It's probably going to be one of those things where you look through the blast, and it's just like, you know, for the next 8 buildings, he just got knocked through every single one of them in that perfect human-shaped hole, right? So he got knocked through all of them, and then, of course, Rayleigh lands. And, you know, Rayleigh, up until this point, has been a little bit conflicted on his feelings for Shakky. He knows that he likes her. He knows he has feelings for her. She gave him the note of, like, come and make me yours someday, and Rayleigh was just like, oh, I don't know about this. And he even talked to Roger about this. Like, it's not that I don't like her, Roger. It's just I don't want to be tied down. You know, I like being a pirate. I like being free. You know, I'm not ready to get married. That kind of jazz, right? But at this moment, Rayleigh has definitely thought about this. He's made up his mind, and he holds out his hand to Shakky and says, sorry for the delay. I'm here for you now. And then Shakky immediately starts weeping, and she's still chained up, so she can't really hug him, but she just kind of like collapses into Rayleigh's arms, and Rayleigh just kind of embraces her and just like, it's okay, I'm here, I'm sorry it took me. He's crying too. It's just like, it took me so long to get here, I'm so sorry. And Shakky's like, I was so scared. And then in the background, like, they're doing this really romantic monologue where Rayleigh's just like, I'll never ever leave you again, I'll always be there for you, you know, kind of shit. Meanwhile, outside of the prison, we have Roger and Gabon that are just like, you know, save it for later, you dog. You know, we gotta get out of here. We got Shakky men. Everybody grab the treasure. We're getting out of here. And then that's the end of the chapter. No break next week. I'm also noticing at the end of this chapter, which I did not notice earlier, there was a handy little translator note page for all of the lanterns at the beginning of the chapter, which would have made like 20 minutes of my life completely moot. So we'll go over that in a second. But anyway, that's the end of the chapter. All right, so now, many people brought up, well, wait a minute, I thought Gabon was the one that eventually fights against Summers. That can still actually has to happen pretty much, because, like, you know, Rayleigh is not going to let Shakky out of his sight from here on out, right? Like, there's no way. And they're going to all escape on the Oro Jackson together, and we know Rayleigh and Shakky. We don't exactly know how this goes, because we know that Rayleigh's going to stay on the Roger crew until, you know, they find the One Piece and they go their separate ways. At that point, Rayleigh retires and goes to, you know, Sabaody. So I don't exactly know where this is going to go with them, where Shakky is not going to stay as a member of the Roger crew because she was not present at Laugh Tale or all of Odin's flashbacks. That wouldn't make much sense. I guess what would make sense is that they go to Sabaody, they find a place that's safe, relatively speaking. She establishes her rip-off bar there, and just like how kind of like Rayleigh even right now goes months and months without going back home to the rip-off bar to see Shakky, Shakky's just kind of like cool with that, you know, when the Straw Hats first show up and be like, oh yeah, you're looking for my husband Ray, he's a ship coating mechanic, right? And it's like, oh cool, he lives here, okay, so if we just stay here, he'll be back eventually. And Shakky's like, yeah, I mean, eventually. Last time he was here was like 8 months ago or some shit, but yeah, he'll be back eventually. So I guess, hey, that's their relationship, you know, I guess she's okay with that, I suppose. So, you know, Shakky might go off and like pick up her, like literally we might pick up her bar from Hachinosu, move it to Sabaody, and she stays there while Rayleigh is out traveling, and then every now and then he comes back home to see her. Kind of the same dynamic they have now. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't change all that much. Better than Yasopp, at least. Yasopp, like, leaves his hometown. He doesn't even stop by. You know that Shanks' crew had to be every now and then near the East Blue, where, you know, Shanks was like, hey, Yasopp, we're not that far from the Gecko Islands. If you want to stop by really quick and see your wife and kid, I mean, I don't mind. And Yasopp's like, oh, what was that, Captain? Oh, we don't have enough time to stay in the East Blue? Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I'd love to, but we got to get going. He was like, Yasopp, that's not what I said at all. No, it's fine. We got to keep moving. We got stuff to do. So, like, yeah, that's, you know, at least Rayleigh went back home every now and then, I guess. But yeah, Shakky is going to escape with them. Summers is obviously going to, you know, reform himself, even with, like, the amount of hockey we've seen that he was even, you know, his arm was cut off by Gabon at Elbaf. He could still reforge it. It just takes longer, right? So he's going to probably emerge out of the building like, who the hell hit me like that? And then Rayleigh's there and he's going to leave. And then Gabon is probably going to be the one, you know, take out his axe. And he's just going to be like, you fight me now. lost! You fight me now, Summers! And then maybe that's where the trauma comes from with Summers at Elbath being terrified of, like, Scupper Gilbun! You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's where that comes from there. Let's see, Roger clashing with Whitebeard, everybody's trying to save Shakky. So now I'm wondering, like, how they're gonna get off the island, because now everybody's looking for Shakky, except for Rocks, basically. And so it's like, are they just gonna let the Roger pirates get away with her? Probably not. So now every other crew is now going to change their targets from, you know, the Celestial Dragons to now the Roger crew's like, the Roger crew saved Shakky! We gotta defeat them so then we can save her from them! You know, like, it's gonna be that type of shit, probably, and it's gonna be crazy, so, oh man, we'll see where it goes. I don't know how we're gonna get many more chapters of God Valley, but probably at least 1 or 2 more, I would assume. Or maybe in the next chapter they manage to get to the Oro Jackson and we cut away and they're out at sea and then they open up the treasure chest. Roger does say, let's grab the treasure and make a run for it, so it's going to be coming up pretty soon where they're going to grab the treasure chest that has baby Shanks in it and then they're going to get away, right? So, yeah. Now, going off of the translator notes really quick. Oh, man. Okay, we got Toki, we got Odin, we got Yasuie. Yes, there were the other daimyos, okay. Tempura, Omosubi, Ushimaru, that makes sense. Let's see. The last name on the second row was Taka. Who is Taka? Okay. And then we have Izo Pedro. That's fine. Oh, number 10, and it's a little bit obscured by Yamato's horn, but it says Kuro, like the kanji for Kuro, for black, and then it just kind of trails off because we don't know the rest of it. There could be a Kurozumi there. Kurozumi, they wouldn't put a that would be the... Putting Orochi's name in the shrine, I mean, that might be going a little bit too far. I understand Momonosuke doesn't want to do, like, okay, we don't want to go back to where we were before, where all the Kurozumis are, like, you know, headhunted and shit like that, and, like, murdered in the streets, because, like, Tama is a Kurozumi, exactly, so we don't want that. So, you know, I understand, but, like, putting Orochi in the shrine makes 0 sense. Maybe it's Kanjuro, but once again, that's another one that's, like... You're really gonna put Kanjuro's name, like, right next to Ashura Doji's name? It would literally be, it would be like, that lantern, the one that has the kanji for Kuro, would be literally right next to Ashura Doji's lantern. That would be awful to do that. So I don't think it's him either. I don't know who else it could be. Another Kurozumi, other than Orochi or Kanjuro, that... like, helped. I mean, Tama helped them, but she's not dead. It wouldn't make any sense to put her there. Did Tama die? It's like, no. Maybe Tama's parents? Maybe? I mean, I don't know. That's interesting. And then the last row, we don't know. You know, they're too obscured and we can't read them too well. But yeah, there were translator notes for that at the end. This was a wild ride here for a lot of stuff. I guess the highlights are Garp confronting the future generation of Yonko, the power level Garp really exerted there, Dragon trying to save the kids, introduction of Maffy, of the, what was the family's name again? The Satchel family. And then just at the end of the chapter, Rayleigh saving Shakky in this super epic double-page spread, which we could all assume that's how it was going to go down. But still, very, very cool way to display that. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking signing out. Later, everyone.